You know, Bobby, can you mute some background noise?
I don't think I can do one of those person. Those people that just snap. I can't.
That you set straight.
I don't think I can. Doesn't taste
I like the one though when they have stuff on it. And then someone's
I
like,
think there are two callers that aren't muted. A caller, user number 4, and I think Liz Statucci.
as long as it's not salted or like.
I can't tell.
Oh my god, this smells so strong. If you take a comb and rub your fingers through it, the cat will die.
What? If you take a comb.
And you like run your fingers at it, the cat will
And
die.
you try to do that?
Yeah, it was
Like
really
that.
good.
Like that noise.
I kind of want to try it.
I'm not gonna lie. Oh, so then you put rice on top too.
It needs to stick.
Oh, right. Well, it's stick. Did you put
Yeah.
stick?
Good.
Oh.
Maybe, Mrs. Monaco, we should try the old-fashioned way. If you're not speaking, would you please mute your computer or your telephone?
All right, it seems better now. I think Bob did it. He managed to mute me. Haha. Good luck.
Yeah,
Good.
I moved a couple people to the lobby, so if anybody needs to come back in, let me know.
Okay,
Sorry, Miss Chair.
That's why Eric's the superintendent.
that's right. Okay, so the meeting is called to order, and pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the school committee is being conducted via remote participation. I'm not totally a fan of that. I hope that we can soon get back to public meetings. Joined by meeting number, the meeting member access code is 129-306-1495, and the password is Tuesday. The first item on our agenda is the BHS Scholastic Art and Writing Awards video.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're fortunate tonight to be joined by George Rakovich, who has put together, I think, a great video of some student artwork. The committee commented that they really liked starting the meeting, last meeting, listening to some of our performing artists. And so tonight's meeting, you all get the pleasure of experiencing some of our visual artists. And again, they're phenomenal. And I know our teachers work incredibly hard at it. And I know that starts from elementary school all the way up. So George, please pass on our gratitude to all the hard work the teachers are doing to that result in getting the students to create this. So I'll turn it over to George. And thanks for joining us tonight.
Oh, absolutely. And I apologize in advance. My dog is barking at the mailman, so we'll have to live with that. But a couple things about this. Originally, I was just going to show the Scholastic Art Awards. We've had a number of students who self-selected. They submitted their own work, and we were lucky enough to get recognition for many of them. But the video is about 6 minutes. Part of it is there's some photographs with promotional materials that were put together by PNC Bank in Wayside Commons. They approached us in the summer about having student work as part of a permanent exhibition. You're going to see some of the work that was selected by our teachers at the bank. So 4 of those 6 students have graduated. 2 are still in the school and they're juniors there. And that was thanks to Lexi Georgievic. She put together these great photos. After that, we have a couple examples of a UMass Dartmouth exhibition. We have a couple students who've that came out in January, early February. It was an online exhibition hosted by UMass Art Awards. There's a number of pieces from the Lexington Arts and Crafts Society. We entered the 25th annual regional high school art show. We've been part of it since as long as I could remember. And this year there were only 5 schools. Sometimes there's up to 9 schools, but we had Burlington, Winchester, Waltham, and Minuteman were all part of this exhibition, which was just happening about a month ago. And I think, Bob, you're going to play that, right?
Following the
That was wonderful.
Thank you. They did a wonderful job.
Uh, That, those,
I'm sorry.
those
Madam
those
Chair.
works of art were beautiful, absolutely beautiful.
We're fortunate George put some of the art around the central office, so we get to look at it all the time in person. So I know Anna Pearl has a bulletin board here, George, and it's just her works are just great to look at live. Um,
Yeah.
George, you normally have a fairly large art show around this time of year. So when life returns to more in-person training, more in-person school, when do you when would people expect to see this, like another live art show around this time?
Yeah, I'm intending on putting together another online art show at the end of the school year, as I did last year. And I think I just shared it out to faculty last year, but I tended out. I'm going to put it out to the wider community at the end of the school year, and then yes, we usually have a couple different shows. One is the March exhibition, and then we have a portfolio exhibition at the end of the year. So that one might still happen this year. And that would be the advanced students, the portfolio and the AP students would be putting that together on their own.
Again, that'd be great. If you could let me know, I'll certainly let the committee know, and we'll help get the word out.
Great, thank you.
And
Thank you for that. The next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes of 3/9. And is Sharon on? No. I mentioned to Sharon that the that Mr. Murphy didn't call the meeting to order. That I did, but that's the only error I saw. So if someone could amend the minutes just to say that the meeting was called to order by the chair, I think we can go ahead and approve them. Okay.
that'll again, Chris, that'll be on the minutes. That'll be on the recording. So we'll make that change.
Okay. So is there a motion to approve the minutes with that change?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it. I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes with that minor change. All those in favor, Mr. Foss,
Aye.
Ms. Simon,
I abstain.
Mr. Murphy? Tom, you muted. Ms. Bond?
Aye.
Aye,
Tom?
Aye.
Aye. Chairman votes aye. Okay, we are done with the minutes. That was 401. And the next item on our agenda is the approval of the warrant. Is there a motion to approve the warrant?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second?
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the warrant. All those in favor, Mr. Foss,
Aye.
Ms. Bond,
Aye.
Ms. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Abstain.
Chairman votes aye, 401. Next item is public participation. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to an item that is not on the agenda? If it's on the agenda, we'll deal with it when the time comes. If it's not, we'll take comments now. I see a hand, Sherry. If you want to speak, put your hover over your name and put your hand up. So I have Sherry Markle. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Sherry Markle, and I'm a parent and a member of the Burlington Equity Coalition. And the Equity Coalition, which I wanted to introduce tonight, launched this past winter, and it brings together 10 organizations in our town that work to support families and children, including 3 houses of worship. Our members include People Helping People, Indian Americans for Burlington, Sahili, Burlington Women Aid, Burlington Kids Care, Help Us, Burlington Against Racism, United Church of Christ Congregational, the Islamic Center of Burlington, and Temple Shalom MF. On behalf of the coalition, I wanted to express our appreciation for the recent communication sent out by Dr. Conti and Mr. Larkin, condemning violence and expressing support for our Asian American and Pacific Islander students and staff. We also applaud the continued public support for the DEI director position from this administration in the weekly video update. Our group is really committed to building an inclusive, an equitable, and a welcoming town community that benefits from the diverse knowledge, cultures, talents, and contributions of all of its residents. And when we talk about equity in education, we're really looking at the description as having student outcomes not be predictable by demographic data and having students feel respected and celebrated for who they are. We look forward to the continued work of the school committee, the administration, and the new DEI director, and we will support and collaborate in addressing these issues going forward. We really believe that together we can make our schools and community a better place and provide opportunities for all to feel safe, to contribute, and to thrive. Thank you so much.
Thank you for speaking. We are very appreciative of the new coalition. We think it's great. And hopefully it will have a huge positive impact on the town.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Someone else, Nikki Cadillac?
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Hi, my name's Nikki Cadillac. I'm running to be a town meeting member at Precinct 6, but I'm here tonight as a parent and a community member. I'm a proud parent to 2 current Fox Hill students and 1 future one, and I'm speaking tonight to express my appreciation for the statement that was sent out by the district regarding the horrific attack in Atlanta last week. In particular, I wanted to highlight one sentence. Even if you have difficulty immediately identifying with those targeted, standing on the sidelines is an expression of privilege that is not worthy of our classrooms or our community. For white community members not directly affected by crimes toward people of color, it could be easy and it could be tempting to turn away from the discomfort of recognizing that our friends and our neighbors are afraid. But to do that would be ignoring an important aspect of the experience of these friends and neighbors who don't have the privilege of opening their eyes as people who look like them are targets of violence. The net result of this attack, and the increasing trend of violence against the Asian American and Pacific Islander population is that people belonging to these communities feel less safe today than they did yesterday, a week ago, and last year. Our schools have worked hard to create a safe and welcoming environment for all students, regardless of background, but there's still work to do. School does not happen in a vacuum, and what happens in the community, the country, and the world at large affects families and students in ways that aren't always immediately visible, especially to students not belonging or individuals not belonging to those communities. It's important to acknowledge when members of our community are hurting, and our teachers are trained to address situations like this in an age-appropriate way that still acknowledges the feelings and the experiences of our students who identify with a minority population. I look forward to seeing the further reinforcement of these skills with the placement of our new DEI director. These conversations are essential to have both at school and at home and send a message to underrepresented students that we see them, we hear them, we care about them, and we will stand with them. When my own children, who are white, learned of the mass murder in Atlanta, they were scared. They asked questions like, what if something like this happens here? And what if they find my friends who are Asian? Their fear is understandable. And as a white parent, there's only so much I can say to comfort them. BPS schools and teachers can help amplify my work as a parent and teach students how to be active bystanders when they see micro or macro aggressions taking place in their school community. A community is at its strongest when its citizens are able to empathize with and understand each other. Only by having these difficult discussions can we fully respect and honor the experiences of our neighbors of color. There are several places in the community where these conversations can happen, including having age-appropriate conversations within classrooms and schools. Privilege is the ability to turn the other way when something doesn't affect you, but it also comes with a responsibility to lift up the voices of those who are marginalized. Thank you once again for speaking up on behalf of our Asian American and Pacific Islander friends, family, students, and citizens. Thanks for letting me speak tonight.
Thank you for your comments. We really appreciate the fact that so many people in the community have taken note of that message, and that the superintendent and assistant superintendent sent it out. We all care very deeply. If there's no one else for public participation, I will move on. The next item on our agenda is the student representative.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I only have a few comments to make regarding like the student body report that I usually give. So the junior class, the junior like student council is planning a True North fundraiser. That's probably going to happen in the next month or so, and I guess just there's been like a lot of things happening with the senior class now, especially when it's like the last few months of the year. So the senior project that all the seniors create, led by the English department, which is a graduation requirement, that has been like concluded, I guess, and we're like looking at other students' projects and giving feedback and things like that. So we're excited to wrap that up, and I'm pretty sure the English department will share our projects out with the faculty. I don't think it's going to be outside of the Burlington Network, but I know that many people have access to it, so that's great. The Senior Student Council is planning a formal event, not really prom, but kind of a prom. It's the planning is still in process, but we are very excited to have that, as we have other senior, like end of year senior activities as well. The senior internship is going to start in May. We have like our applications due at the end of the month, and we're able to basically have like our own internship or like a service project, or flipped internship, which is another option. So we can connect any one of these things, and we're basically excused from some of our classes in the last quarter. So we're all looking forward to that as well. And I think I wanted to just give an update regarding the director of DI process. So last week, the three finalists met with three stakeholder groups: parents, staff, and students. I was very grateful to be part of the student group as well, and we had I feel like we had a lot of needed like conversations during the process as well as afterwards. We did speak with Mr. Larkin and Dr. Conti afterwards as kind of like a way to give our feedback, of, like for the finalists. So we are very happy to see the almost like the end of the journey. And I know Mr. Larkin and Dr. Conti is on the call, so if they would like to say anything, that's totally fine. And I think the last thing that I wanted to mention, I don't know, Mr. Larkin, do you want to speak right now before I move on?
No, go ahead, finish up, Sarah. Thank you.
Oh, okay, all right. The last thing that I wanted to say was, so last night, Bar Youth, which is Burlington Against Racism's youth group, we met last night, and we were discussing what happened, like the incidents regarding Atlanta and just violence and hatred against minority groups in general. And what we rose as like a concern that I think came from all students was the fact that we lacked the necessary conversations that should have happened in the classrooms. We kind of didn't think that, like, we were obviously grateful that Dr. Conti, Mr. Larkin, Mr. Sullivan sent out their appropriate statements to condemn these violence and incidents, and obviously that's very crucial, and we really appreciated it. However, it was just very shocking to realize that we had a lot of conversation regarding, the incident happened at the Capitol, like in our classrooms. Like we talked about it for like like 2 days, like in almost like every single class. It was just shocking that almost like no, like for my personal experience, like none of my teachers mentioned it. Other students in Bar Youth, we do have some eighth graders, and even they were saying that only maybe like one teacher talked about it in their class. So when we're looking at things that are like, I guess one of the things that we need to work on as a district regarding like equity work, is something that we actually like, train and make sure that we have teachers who are comfortable having conversations about recent events that are happening in the world. Obviously, these events and incidents are not going to stop suddenly. It's going to happen. And obviously, this incident wasn't just the only one. There has been many leading up to it. And it's necessary that we recognize that and we talk about it in a very meaningful way in our classrooms. So we, as Bar Youth, we did send out an email contacting administration and the district-wide equity committee. And so this is just a concern that I wanted to raise to the school committee and the town, I guess, to basically indicate that we all believe that we should be able to have conversations like this, and like there's a reason why teachers are not feeling comfortable talking about it, and it's as if like the teachers need support, and also like obviously students need support. So I guess I wanted to just give out like my concerns on behalf of Bar Youth. I do have, I do think there's other members of Bar and Bar Youth who are here. So if you have, I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything regarding that, we'll be happy to answer. But yeah, that would be it for my report. Thank you.
Sarah, thank you very much. And I think that your comments are a reason sort of are at the end of the journey in the classroom, which is really why we're trying to do all the work up front. So I think getting that feedback is important to us, but it's a good motivator for us to continue our work and to get us all trained so that we can have the conversations that are clearly impacting the students in our classrooms. So again, thank you for providing us that window. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Sarah. Who has questions? Martha?
Um, I don't really have a question. I just want to thank Sarah and the other students who are helping us move forward. I think that we are beginning to get that training for our staff, for our administrators. We're going to talk later. The school committee has now had some training that we can all move forward together with the new director of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I really appreciate the student voice that we've had this year, especially you, Sarah, but I know there are many other students who are having these conversations. I want to thank all the teachers and the staff that I know are having these conversations and helping us. You know, we are trying to provide the support that our students and our teachers need. And I know we're not getting to everyone that we need to yet, but I'm very grateful to have those voices that are helping to push us to do this. I also don't want it to fall all on the teachers. I'm sorry, to fall all on the students. And I don't want it to fall entirely either on our teachers who are Black and Indigenous or people of color. And in this week, our Asian American Pacific Islander teachers who are, really having a hard time with the issues that have gone on. And it's not something new. Um, the bias and discrimination against the Asian American and Pacific Islander community has been going on in American history for almost 200 years. It's something that's not new if that's your family, if that's you, who you are in your experience. But we do need to support them. And I appreciate the Burlington Equity Coalition's people who spoke tonight, because I agree with what they said. it is our job to speak out. And I think that our teachers do know a lot about this, and that we are not going to be talking about inappropriate subjects with first graders. We're going to talk with our teachers do know how to talk to first graders about fairness and justice. And they know our middle school teachers, it gets harder as kids get older in some ways. But I'm really glad we're on this journey. I wish we were farther and I wish we were able to support the people who need the support now better. And it's hard to think of all the right words to say, but I do appreciate all that the students are doing to help and all that the staff are doing to help with this work. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Martha. Anyone else have questions or comments for Sarah? Okay, thanks. It was a great presentation, our student rep. And next, I'm going to ask Carl, before we do subcommittee reports, I know, Carl, you wanted to talk momentarily.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It's a lot of what I was going to say has already been said. It was going to be another thank you to Dr. Conti and Mr. Larkin for the letter they sent, and maybe an opportunity, and perhaps this Thursday night when the District Equity Committee meets would be a more appropriate venue. But I know that the district does have ongoing supports for teachers of color, and I just wanted to say that we can always do more. There are tools that we can give to all teachers to help facilitate those kinds of conversations. And I know that a lot of them do have training in having those discussions with students in an age-appropriate way, as Ms. Simon mentioned. But I do think it is important to fully equip the educators in Burlington, because as Sarah mentioned, these types of incidents are not going to go away. And unfortunately, we will have to deal with situations. So if we can ensure that our students and teachers are equipped to continue these conversations, because it is an ongoing process. And Mr. Larkin, if we can add that to the agenda on Thursday night, that would be great.
Will do.
Patrick, is that a public meeting on Thursday night?
No, it's not.
If school committee members are at it, it should be public. We'll move on. Subcommittee reports. Anyone have any subcommittee reports?
If I can just clarify, if there are more than 2 school committee members at it, it should be a posted meeting.
No, if there are any. Any school committee members added, it needs to be a public posted meeting. You can check with Amy.
No, I'll follow up, Madam Chair. I'll talk to Carl and Mr. Foss and Ms. Simon.
Okay, thank you. Are there any subcommittee reports? Seeing none, I'll move on. Ways and Means. Roger, are you on?
Yes, Madam Chair, nothing for me yet.
Okay, you want to wait till later?
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Coronavirus update from the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The A and B of the agenda really are going to blend together, as well as some of the building and facilities. We are slated by a regulatory change for a return to full in-person at the elementary level on Monday, April 5th. So we are on track to do that. In our outreach to families, we have 40 students who have chosen to go from a full remote experience to a full in-person experience, distributed across the 4 elementary schools and all grades across the elementary schools. So for some context, we have about 400 students in the elementary remote academy, which is our fully remote experience, and about 40 of them are choosing to return in full. I think that that so many children and families want to remain in the remote academy is a tribute to the teachers who are teaching remotely and Mr. Musselman, who has been coordinating that effort. I think the parents are choosing stability and to maintain the relationships that their children have developed with their teacher and their classmates. The 40 students who are coming back to full in-person, principals are in the process of placing those students into homerooms. They're going to balance them out. It's going to be like a start to the school year. We will be making sure that the classrooms have the space to accept those students. The CDC has recently changed their recommendation from 6 feet of social distancing for masked activities to 3 feet. We are still trying to maintain as much distancing as possible. So, our memorandum of agreement with the BEA requires us to notify parents if the spacing drops below 6 feet. So we're placing the students. We'll do an analysis of the classroom and the desks of the classes where we're adding students. And if the social distancing is going to drop below 6 feet to 5 feet to 4 feet, we'll notify the parents in that class and the educators who are teaching in that class. And that's going to take place as soon as the students are placed, which is happening this week. Elementary teachers have their schedules. And so we're sort of they're looking at what their changes in their day will be. Lunch, which is a mask-less activity, obviously, we're still required to keep 6 feet of social distancing. So any classroom that does not offer 6 feet of distancing for the number of students in it, we're going to have to create some overflow spaces for lunch. Recess, which is a big topic for the students and for the parents. I just wanted to stress that recess is going to be done by class. So the state had made a recommendation that half the kids participate in recess in a class while the other half are eating. Our students really are looking forward to recess with all of their classmates. So the principals have put together a schedule that they'll be having entire classes, all of second grade, all of third grade out at recess at the same time as would happen in a typical year. There'll be places at recess where students can take off their masks, a mask break that'll be supervised. And of course, anytime a student has their mask off, they need to be 6 feet apart when they're outside. So I think we'll be trying to provide some opportunity for a mask break incorporated into that. I did mention the principals briefly. They've been working incredibly hard. This is, again, starting a school year essentially while school's in session at the same time and having students learn new routines. We had a meeting this morning and one of them, we were a part of our discussion. They were even saying that, recess is also a learned behavior, and we're going to have a bunch of students experiencing recess for the first time. They need to learn the rules. They need to figure things out. So again, this is like the start of a school year, and they're looking forward to do that. But again, we have no students moving from full in-person back to remote. So our intention is to keep the remote schedules and the remote teachers as they are. So we're not going to make any changes to the remote academy. We're just adjusting the full in-person schedules. And I know all the principals sent letters out to their parents. So parents should be aware of the changes and what's happening. And I'm assuming shortly they'll be notified what homeroom their child will be joining if they're moving into elementary schools for the first time. So before I go on to middle and high school, I just want to ask the committee if they have any questions. Again, we are slated to return on April 5th. As I stated last meeting, initially, we are not expanding the capacity on our school buses, even though the state says that we can. We want to get 2 weeks under our belt, and we'll look at expanding bus capacity when we redo the middle and high school routes towards the end of April. But we're really trying to minimize the arrival and dismissal changes and sort of everything else that comes with an expanded bus service for the first few weeks of April when the kids get back and used to a full day routine.
Anyone have any questions? Martha?
I just want to clarify, I think you said it, Dr. Conti, but I know that there were a number of parents who were eager to have their students be able to be transported on the bus, especially elementary teams. And because that's not going to happen right away, there was some confusion. And my understanding is that when we're ready to have our middle school and our high school students go back, there will be a revamping of the bus routes. And at that point, there will be options for more students on the bus. And so then elementary families will be notified and will be able to request a seat on the bus. Is that accurate? It's not going to happen on April 5th, but it will happen late when we open the others. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. So we're looking at bus routes now. We just didn't want to incorporate brand new bus routes with the brand new schedules all at the same time. So we're sort of phasing in the change for the elementary students. We are planning on expanding our bus capacity. Again, what I will caution everyone is as we have more students in person and more students on the buses, that if there are positive cases, then more students are going to be quarantined and more students are going to need to be out of school. So just because we have the opportunity for more kids for full days doesn't necessarily mean that we still have to follow the safety protocols that are in place. So, and I think the more students we have on buses, the harder it is going to be for us to have seating charts that are accurate and well maintained. And again, there's always trade-offs. So we will do everything as safely as we can, but trying to expand bus service as we go through. Bob, I just want to make sure I'm not sort of presenting anything. The bus company is working on routes for elementary, middle, and high school, and for around the end of April. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. So they have the route changes for the April 5th, and then they are working on route changes for all schools, all tiers, K through 8, K through 12, for the 26th.
So the changes for middle and high school on the buses are a little bit different because we're combining cohorts. So instead of just transporting cohort A Monday, Tuesday, cohort B Thursday, Friday, we're going to be transporting everyone all together. So we need new routes for the middle and high school anyway. So we're just looking at making the transportation changes all at once. Families and parents are very patient at the start of the year. It usually takes us a couple weeks to work out bus stops, bus routes, bus schedules. Usually by this time of year, all the kinks have worked out. This is going to be a restart to the school year. So are things going to be perfect on April, at the end of April? No, but it'll take us a week or so to get the bus routes sort of worked out and answer all the questions that we normally answer at the end of August and September. So so that's sort of, I think the elementary principals, again, I just want to stress they've done a great job. I think they've been working collaboratively. I think the teachers are ready to have their students back. And I think I've heard from some remote teachers who really appreciate valuing the work that they've done all year and keeping their schedules and their classes together. So again, I think at the elementary, we are ready, as we can be, and April 5th is right around the corner. So I think we're getting there. I believe Carrie Purchase is on the call, Madam Chair. Would you mind if I drag Carrie into this conversation?
Not at all. Go right ahead. Welcome, Carrie.
Good evening.
There she is. Hi, Carrie.
Press those buttons.
There you go. You popped up. We've done this 3 times today, so I could do it, but I just want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to say thank you. You've been working tremendously hard with your administrative team, Josh and Jen. I know you've been working with your teachers. We don't need necessarily a high level of specifics, but more sort of a bulleted timeline as to where you are in the middle school process.
Sure. So the past week or so, we've been meeting with teams of teachers to kind of get their thoughts, their ideas. And it's really informed our timeline and where we've landed. So I want to thank all of them for taking time out of their schedule to accommodate and meeting with us. So, excuse me, the survey that we had a parent meeting last Thursday and kind of communicated the changes, including the reduced social distancing in classrooms and the plan for adjusting some of our, excuse me, all of our homerooms in order to accommodate the increase in the number of students. The survey closed this afternoon. We are just kind of verifying all of the results and honestly surprised by the number of students that are coming back. It was, you know, we thought I thought there'd be kind of a, you know, a small net change, and there are more students returning to a full return from fully remote than there are students going from the hybrid to a fully remote model. So our next step is we'll get teacher schedules out to them no later than Monday. The changes that we put into place in January really primed us for this. So things are kind of aligned. So there's not going to be drastic changes in the teacher schedules. And then and not drastic changes for the students either. So you know, some of the who's in the classes will change, but in general terms that they will be kind of you know, they'll still have a core academic class at, you know, the same time every day. We will be getting input from teachers and counselors and finalizing class lists. We hope to communicate those to families early in April. April 9th, I believe, is the day where they would get that information and get their updated schedule. And we are looking for a full return the Monday after April break on April 26th. That's our anticipated date of return.
So again, Carrie, thank you. So just to, again, repeat quickly, the middle school will be returning to full in-person on Monday, April 26th. The state mandated deadline is Wednesday, April 28th. So we'll be coming in the Monday ahead of that. I think we do have some significant classroom setup, furniture moving that needs to take place at both the middle school and the high school. And so we plan on taking advantage of April break for the furniture moving that needs to take place to prepare for the opening again at the middle school and high school. So families should be hearing more about the schedules towards the beginning of April. And once the students have their schedules, then we should be ready to go. Again, it's a restart to the school year. So I know I've said it's, I think I use the word disruptive too much, but I think it's going to be a new beginning. And so we will work out the scheduling kinks as we always do at the start of a school year. I think the one benefit both at the elementary and the middle school is that our teachers have had a chance to develop relationships with many of the students, and even the ones who have been remote, I think, have been connected to the school. So it's not like coming in September when no one has, they're sort of reestablishing relationships. So that's a positive. Madam Chair, I'm sorry, I know I'm taking quite a bit of time on the schedules, but I think it's what people wanted to hear about. Mark, I believe, is on the call as well. Mr. Sullivan.
Mark, you there?
All right, maybe he's having some
I'm not-
issues. I
not
will.
hearing him.
That's all right. Mark and I, we've done this again twice today already. The high school is also working on a schedule. The high school is not presently under the mandatory change that the Board of Ed has voted, but we had a meeting with the commissioner today, and he's planning on making the announcement, he said, at the beginning of April, so in a week or so. And we have to be able to execute the change at the high school to a full return in 2 weeks. So obviously, we're planning like we're going to be mandated to return. In my conversations with the surrounding communities, the Middlesex League 12, I think almost everyone except for one is returning their high school at the same time as their middle schools to full in-person instruction. So we are planning right now of moving the high school into a full return schedule on Monday, April 26th as well. So that would be the same date as the middle school. Mark is working on a schedule. It's going to look like the schedule that they'd been planning to implement this fall had it not been for the pandemic. I think he has a faculty meeting tomorrow, and he's in the process of getting feedback and I think working to bring the high school back. Again, the structure of the days will change in terms of the number of periods. I think Mark is talking about going to a 5-period day on a 7-day rotation. And again, the students will get their schedules. Their classes won't change, but when their classes meet will change. So students will be getting their schedules. And again, the plan for the high school is a April 26th return to full in-person. So, Madam Chair, just last but certainly not least, the preschool. We are not making any changes to the preschool schedule at this time. The preschool is going to stay in its current scheduling and schedule arrangement through the end of this year. So again, preschool no changes. Elementary schools full return on Monday, April 5th. Middle and high school are planning a full return on Monday, April 26th. Bus routes will be getting redone, and we'll be introducing new stops and routes to families for the end of April, and then working through those changes as we move forward. And lunch has to be maintained 6 feet of social distancing. The CDC and the state is saying anywhere between 3 and 6, and we're going to notify educators and families when we are not offering 6 feet of social distancing when we're inside.
Okay, Catherine.
Yeah, I saw there was some discussion about having an open campus type thing for the high school students at lunch. And I just wanted to see if any kind of decision had been made. My own personal experience when I was in high school is we had an open campus in general, including lunch, which to me helped, I felt helped prepare the students better for going off to college, taking on responsibility. So what's the final decision on that for the lunches for high school?
I don't think there's been a final decision made, but we're not leaning towards an open campus.
Dr. Conti, I'm here if you want to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. I didn't mean to
No, I was listening. I just had to log in.
Oh, I hope I didn't misrepresent anything. So, Mark,
I didn't hear anything you said. I was logging in, so I missed whatever it is that you said.
Then just agree and say I did it perfectly.
You did it perfectly.
Thank you.
I can talk to the open lunches though. Unfortunately at the high school, it really doesn't work. But even with longer classes, by the time kids are able to leave the school, get to their cars, go where they're going, and come back, assuming they drive, there's limited time to actually get someplace to be able to eat. I think Burlington House of Pizza would be overrun if we had an open campus, because that's the only place that I think kids could get to quick enough in the time frame to get back and forth. So it would be a challenge to have an open campus.
Food trucks?
Food trucks would work. Yeah.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Any other questions? It sounds like everyone has been working diligently to try and put this in place so that the elementary can go back on the 5th of April and the middle and high can go back on the 26th. And I'm sure it's been a tremendous amount of work for everyone involved. And we are most appreciative of all that work. It's like a light at the end of the tunnel to imagine the kids going back to school. It's great. So thank you for all the hard work.
Again, Madam Chair, I think principals have really been stepping up, and the teachers who've been collaborating as well. Our teachers are also all juggling and trying to get vaccinated at the same time too. So because there's not a sort of a state, a local effort, our teachers are also having that burden added to them as well, and they're handling that. There are 4 days the state is dedicating for educators coming up. We're going to communicate those days to make sure we communicate those days to the educators as well. But I think teachers are making good progress on getting themselves vaccinated and getting appointments.
I was going to ask you that, Eric. How's it going for the teachers? Yeah. have a lot of them been able to get vaccinated?
I think we're gathering some of that information for people who want to share it through the union. And I think we're approaching 50% who are either fully vaccinated, have one dose, or have appointments scheduled. So I think the more time that goes by, the better. Hopefully the supply increases and there are just more and more opportunities and places to get vaccinated. Um, so I think we're making progress. I think people are making progress. Teachers are making progress, as well as our staff. Right? It's not just teachers. We have other people in the building we need vaccinated
Right.
along with them. But it's at a great personal cost. I think what's been a wonderful anecdote is teachers are really helping other teachers. We have PTOs, parents volunteering to stay on the computer to look for open appointments, and they're signing up teachers. There's just been a lot of great generosity that people have shared, both to their colleagues and with school people. So again, just I think sometimes crisis brings out the best in people, and I think in Burlington we've seen that or experienced that. So again, just a note of gratitude for the teachers who are helping their colleagues and other educators, and then to the parents who are volunteering.
I got my second shot today. Carl, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Conte, you mentioned there was a call with the commissioner today. Were there any updates on extending the pool testing funding from the state or anything like that? And could you comment on what Burlington's plans may or may not be?
Again, Mr. Foss, right now, Burlington is not participating in the state pool testing program. Um, Again, I'm in regular conversation with our neighboring districts. Some are doing it, some are doing it very well. Others are doing it and not getting the participation that they would like. The state funding is supposed to run out on April 18th. As you know, the commissioner did say they are petitioning the state to have the funding ongoing. I continue to look at it. It is just a matter of it's a matter of getting people to participate. So I think in one of our surrounding communities, the participation rate is 10%, and so that's obviously a challenge. Other communities have a much higher percentage rate. There are some communities where school committees have mandated that students in extracurricular activities participate in pool testing. So again, Mr. Foster, I'm trying to gather all that information. I can share that with the committee, and we can determine whether it's worth the time, effort, and energy. But I think pool testing works if a high enough percentage of people choose to participate, and I think that's the sell on the pool testing.
Thank you. I think it would be valuable, especially at the middle and high school where the distancing would be lower in general. And that's, I understand that in Watertown, they have made it mandatory for all students. Did you hear about that?
I did. The superintendent Didi there has been doing testing actually since September. So they've done that's really where they focus their resources, and I think they've done a great job. And so we can certainly look at that. We did send a team of nurses to Watertown, I think in October, to look at their process. And so I think we're very familiar with it, and it may be someplace where we want to put our next round of federal relief funding towards increasing our testing. I think the technology is getting better with testing, Mr. Foss, as well. And I do think that we would need to talk about how we get people to participate. Again, I think mandates are sometimes necessary, but I'd rather just convince people that it's important, and if they would participate that way. But I think what ultimately makes pool testing, again, I'll repeat myself, helpful is if a high percentage of people participate. So
I agree. Thank you very much.
Yeah. And the other thing, Mr. Foss, you didn't ask, but the commissioner commented on MCAS, and there's still nothing definitive. So he said they're having ongoing conversations. So it's still a possibility they could get pushed to next fall. They still haven't given us anything definitive. So the conversations with MCAS are ongoing.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else on this topic? Are we moving on? Anyone, Beth Colburn?
Thank you. Beth Colburn here with the CPAC. Thank you everyone for your efforts. Really appreciate all the things you're doing to help us go back full time. Just wanted to ask about the middle and high school schedules. You said there were going to be some changes to the schedule, and I was wondering if the intervention block would be in either of those schedules.
Ms. Colburn, I don't know the answer. I will research it and get back to you. I'm sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head. I haven't seen a finished schedule. I think they're still working on it. But I'll get you that answer. I'll follow up with Mr. Sullivan and Ms. Purchase.
Carrie, do you have something to say?
I can say that the structure of our current schedule isn't changing. So right now we do have a WIN block, and that's where our services primarily are taking place. So that will continue to the end of the year. Next year, we are reverting back to our six period, 6-day rotating schedule. So we will continue in this next iteration of schedules to have our WIN block.
I can answer for the high school too.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
So the student schedules aren't changing. So whenever the class period that they receive services on falls is when they would continue to receive those services. With the rotating schedule, the frequency in the days just might be a little bit different. But the class period that they're already receiving those services would stay the same.
Okay, thank you.
Does that help, Beth?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, thanks. Okay, school building facilities and facilities/facilities. Eric, Bob, who's?
Again, I'll just speak briefly in regards to the opening. Bob, we're doing another airflow report, so we'll share that with the committee when we get through. With it. The opposite of true when we were approaching winter, we were saying we were concerned. As the weather gets better, the environmentals get better. The more windows we can have open, the more fresh air we have coming into the buildings, the more activities we have outside, the better the airflow measurements will be. So again, we'll be presenting a new set of numbers. Bob, you're working with Ed and Mike on those as well?
Correct. Yeah. So Ed, Mike, and myself have weekly meetings where we discuss our CO2 testing. We have been continuing CO2 testing from early on the beginning of the year. We did share one report with you that gave the summary of that. As Dr. Conti mentioned, we are now getting to a phase where we're starting to see the need for less heat. I know it's only been a couple of days, couple of weeks, but we're making that transitional change where the buildings are staying a little bit warmer. The chance to open up windows is definitely happening. But over the next couple of weeks, that's only going to increase. So we'll see those CO2 numbers preferably drop and a better environment that we believe, obviously, for fresh air and keeping people healthier. We'll still need to run our machines, so we'll want the teachers and students to know that to run the machines as much as possible, to keep the windows open as much as possible. And if the opportunity presents itself to be outside and teach, then please take that opportunity as well. But every class is going to be a little bit different.
So again, Madam Chair, when we have those measurements, we'll share them with the committee and we'll share them with the teachers and staff as well as we move into spring. But again, the environmentals only get better with better weather. So I think we're going to be moving in the right direction. So Bob, is there anything else on? We have a warrant. We haven't heard anything from the MSBA regarding Fox Hill. And is there any other update?
No, everything else is continuing to happen in the background. MSBA does have our 2 videos. They've acknowledged receiving them, but they haven't made any comments to us that they like the videos, don't like the videos, or if it helped our chances or not. But fingers crossed on that. As Dr. Conti mentioned, yep, to prepare for any in-person changes to the schedule. Ongoing conversations, preliminary conversations are happening for the feasibility study regarding the BHS HVAC systems. So that's not dropping, that's continuing. Yeah, I mean, those are the big topics right now. We'll talk about some warrant articles upcoming in the meeting, but that's all I got right now.
Okay, thanks. Um, Moving on to communication, school committee equity statement and core values statement approval.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to thank the committee for participating in an equity training with Dr. Khalees Warnham. I know that your evenings are busy enough, and the school committee spent three evenings in a training with Mr. Larkin and myself, and sort of the culminating work of that time as a committee was to agree on an equity statement with the group of you and sort of a core value statement. So I just thought it would be great publicly to read those statements. And again, I'm not sure I need a vote approving them, but a vote affirming them. I just wanted to share publicly that you all did great work, and it's very much appreciated. And I think it supports the position that we're in. So again, Madam Chair, I think we have it on as an approval.
That's
and-
all right, we can approve it.
And then we would make sure that we communicate these out across the district, and it I hope becomes incorporated into the fabric and culture of the district.
Is this something that we have that maybe Bob could put up on the screen for people to see and you could read it, Dr. Conti?
I believe so.
Do you have access to that, Mr. Cuna?
I do in the meeting packet. I just have to make some changes to rotate it.
Okay.
I guess if you can give me a minute, I'll work on that.
Go ahead, Bobby, take your time. Beth, your hand is still up. Do you want to say anything else?
I'm so sorry. No.
Oh, that's okay. I just thought you might have it up again.
Madam Chair?
Yeah, Martha.
I was wondering, I would like us to discuss the equity statement that we came up with, but I personally was hoping after we read that to make a couple of comments about the training, and other people may want to make comments about the training. So is that something we should do while we're waiting for Bob to get it up on the screen?
Bob, what do you think? Do we have time to make comments ahead of time?
Please.
All right, go ahead, Martha.
Okay. I want to say that I am really pleased that the school committee had this training. It was 3 years ago that our students and other people came to us asking for the school district to begin seriously doing this kind of work. And I think it's really crucial that the school committee be part of that work and that training. So we understand the issues, so that we have the same language to talk about it. I think all that's been really important, and I felt like Dr. Warnham, who did the training, was really excellent. I look forward to having our new director of DEI, and who will be able to help us continue the work toward having a district that's inclusive and equitable for all of our students. And there were 3 things I wanted to just briefly highlight that I felt I learned from the training. And one is that even when an action or words are not intended to be hurtful, they sometimes are. And so we need to educate our students and teachers about why these words and actions are hurtful and how to those conversations. This is a little bit like what we were talking about before. That I learned that I hadn't really understood before is how bias and discrimination actually prevent students from learning. We have some very powerful parts of our brains that protect us. So if the first or the second layers of our brains are busy protecting us from harm and hurt that might come from, say, a student's peers, even if it's unwittingly, then the new information can't get to the third layer, the part of the brain that allows us to learn and remember and synthesize new information. If we truly want all of our students to learn and thrive, then we need to help our students learn how to interact in ways that don't create harm to their peers, even if it is unintentional. And then the third area was thinking about the concept of both and that is that there is so much for us to do, but there's not a limited pie. There's not a limited amount of kindness and opportunity in our schools, and there shouldn't be. It's not a question of either or. It's not one group or the other group. That we need to provide an education system that provides the best for all groups, for both and all groups. And I thought those were really powerful things that I learned from these trainings. So I wanted to share it with people so they had an idea of what we were learning about. And of course, if other people had things, that would be up to them. But thank you for the time.
All right, Bob, you ready? Or is it not going to work?
Yep, I'll put it up right now.
Okay.
Okay.
So the equity statement that we came up with a lot of help, I would say, was equity doesn't live in an office or strategic plan. It is not one person's responsibility. It is everyone's responsibility to be an agent of equity, access, and change. Eric, do you want us to vote on this, or both of them, or what?
Sure, you can vote on both of them or have a conversation about them, but
Okay.
and I think this was the core value statement that the committee made, and we'll add this to the committee documents in terms of the core value and the district planning for success and school improvement plans. So it'll filter from the school committee down to classrooms, and so again, Madam Chair, you all developed this and added words that you felt were important and reflected the values that you all share about Burlington and the importance of equity. So again, educational equity means that every child belongs and receives whatever support he, she, they need to develop her, his, their full academic, emotional, and social potential to thrive every day. This begins with kindness and valuing the humanity of every child individual. So
Yeah, that took a lot of work. A lot of effort went into wordsmithing it by different members of the school committee, and I think we should all be proud of it. Is there a conversation? Is there discussion? Is there a motion to approve these? How do you want to deal with this?
again, I'd like a public acknowledgement from the committee. I think a motion would be perfect. I think if there's a vote to approve, then again, we'll start to incorporate these statements into all that we sort of share about the Burlington School District.
Okay, Bob, can you take them down so that I can see everybody's faces? Thank you. Okay, why don't we have a motion first? A motion to approve these two documents as our, what are we calling them?
An equity statement and a core value statement.
Okay.
I'll make
So-
a motion to approve the core value statement and the equity statement.
Okay, perfect. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, is there any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I will put that motion to a vote. I think we all spent a lot of time discussing it as it was developed. Mrs. Bond,
Aye.
Ms. Simon,
Aye.
Mr. Murphy,
Aye.
Mr. Foss.
Aye.
Chairman votes aye.
Thank you.
So I think, where is that going to be presented and where are we going to see that, Eric? Because it's important.
Again, you're going to see it in our district improvement planning, our school improvement planning. Ultimately, we should incorporate it into, if we have a cover page on the budget, we'll incorporate the statement there. Again, it's about what you all value. So again, we'll incorporate it there, and then our job sort of becomes to operationalize those statements, and then I think we can work towards doing so. We can highlight examples as we move forward. So I think it just becomes common language. I think Ms. Simon talked about developing a common definition, a common vocabulary, and this just helps us do that as an organization. So you know, oftentimes people envision school as classrooms, and there's certainly that's where the work happens, and that's the most important part. But you know, we're an organization of 700 people, and we all want them to move in a common direction. So I think core value statements help us sort of explain in a very simplified way to everyone what's important. And so I think that's where this will help. So I do want to again thank you for the amount of work that that you put in, and I think that I find these two statements will be helpful management tools for us to move forward.
Okay. Martha.
Then we're done with this topic. There is one comment I'd like to make before we move on to the next topic. I don't want to prevent us from commenting on this if they wanted to.
Martha, you're breaking up.
Okay. Well, I'll just say what I was going to say. I just wanted to, it's springtime and there are a number of holidays coming up, and I wanted to wish everyone who celebrates Passover a happy Passover this week. And I believe that it will be the Roman Easter before we meet again. I wish everyone a happy Easter. And it may even, I believe that Ramadan will start before we have our first meeting in April. So I wish everyone healthy, good holidays, and that people can celebrate hopefully with their families.
Okay. The next item is the school attendance age policy date adjustment. Eric?
I'm muted. Madam Chair, Mrs. Monaco, nothing on the school attendance age policy has changed. So all we're asking for is we have a deadline of June 1st. We just wanted to make a public statement that we'd like to make a change to May 1st. And the reason is, you can imagine we're very busy. We have all of our staff or the vast majority are in classrooms teaching. And we just want to make sure that we move the deadline up to May 1st. If there's a family that meets the deadline, Mrs. Monaco, I promise we're not going to hold them to it. I just want to encourage families that if they want an exception to our age attendance policy, and there's a window between August and October that allows families to petition moving to first grade. We have more families than in a typical year have chosen to enroll their children in full-time private kindergartens. And so this option is going to be available to more students. So because we expecting a higher volume, we're just asking that they get their applications in first. Madam Chair, I honestly don't even think we need a vote to make this change, because normally we would have a first reading and a second reading. I just wanted to bring attention that we would strongly encourage families to consider making this policy active, or have the deadline be May 1st and not June 1st, because I don't think
Is it
this
a-
should be permanent.
Is it
Madam
a
Chair.
permanent change or just this year?
I think it's just this year, so I really don't want to make it a permanent change. And
Okay.
as I said, if there's a family that misses it, Mrs. Monaco, we will do everything that we can to meet the needs of that family. I just didn't know how to convey to families, we want, if they're going to be in that time period, between August 31st and October 31st, where we need to have conversations with the sending school that we just need to know that as soon as possible. We're already starting to get some, so I think parents are beginning to make that. I'm just concerned that we may have more requests than we can handle if we wait until June 1st.
Okay, sounds good. Everyone heard you. Martha?
I think that we're using a little bit of educational jargon here. We're calling it the school attendance age policy, which is what it is. But could you say in lay terms what it is we're talking about?
I can, that if parents want their children to go right from a full-day private kindergarten placement to first grade, and they're falling outside of our age attendance, or if they want to go from a full-day private preschool into a K, and the child is born between August 31st, which is our cutoff date, and October 31st, that we need to approve that. And so we feel we have more families who have placed their students outside of Burlington this year than typical. If they are planning to return to the public schools and their birth date falls sort of in the August 31st to October 31st, we just need to know what their plans are as soon as possible so we can have a conversation. We want to place their child, where that child will have the most success. So that's what this policy is all about. And I hope, I don't mean to use jargon, Ms. Simon. I think it sometimes just comes out.
We get used to it. And so we're talking about pre-kindergarten students who are going into kindergarten and kindergarten students who are going into first grade.
Primarily, yes.
If they don't meet our usual age cutoff on August 31st.
Yes.
Okay.
And again, nothing after October 31st, but there's a small window where this committee allows us to make some exceptions. And I think, and so I just want to convey to parents that we just need to know that as soon as possible.
All right, thanks, Eric.
Chair?
Anyone else have any questions on that? No? Okay, next item. Capital warrant articles.
Again, Madam Chair, we have the deadline of this Friday. So we wanted to try to get the school committee as much detail as possible. I believe Nicole is on the call, and I think Roger as well. I think we've gotten more information about the town in terms of the money available for capital, so we can discuss that with the committee. I think we are prioritizing health and safety as we were asked to, and so I think that we wanted to prioritize the turf and track replacement at Burlington High School. Again, this does fit under the total capital warrant money that the town has given us. And again, we can speak to that afterwards. But Bob, do you want to talk about the proposal specifically? Again, it was shared in your packet. So, and then the other one that the warrant article, and I think we're going to talk maybe about one more proposal, but is the community custodial, which again is we're just technically the stewards of that money, and that's and I think that's fairly straightforward. I'm not sure, Ms. Bond or Mr. Foss, if you're familiar with the community custodial, we can talk about that very briefly, but that's also in your packet. So Bob, obviously the big ticket item here is the turf and track replacement. So would you mind spending some time and going through the materials that you provided to the committee?
Yep. This should look familiar to most of the committee members from last year. When we were presenting the warrant articles, we looked at in two phases, the BHS, varsity track, and the varsity turf field. When we got closer to presenting to or pushing to town meeting, we ended up removing the track and just presenting the BHS turf field. So last year we were asking for the $500,000 to replace the turf field. When it got closer to town meeting, the pandemic had hit, and we had pulled the request for the turf field to be replaced. So what you're seeing right now is not the direct replacement of last year's $500,000 request for the turf field only. It's the two parts that we pulled from the warrant articles, which is the replacement of the track and the replacement of the turf field. which is why you're seeing the $725,000 request. Again, if you want me to go into the details of the track, the biggest thing I would like to say is that there has been some questions swirling around as to whether or not turf fields should last forever, and that is not true. They do not last forever. This is no different in any of the surrounding towns or across the country. The expected life of a turf field is approximately 7 to 12 years. Ours is warranted for 5, and then we are on our approaching our 11th year. So we're finishing our 10th and moving on to our 11th year of this turf field. So it's definitely been used. This is our #1 used field in the town. And again, the request is really due to the fact that the rubber and sand infill of the field gets compacted over time. And then we use a machine that fluffs up that sand. Some of it gets kicked out, stuck on shoes, clothes, whatnot. And then we have to replace some of that infill, and then it gets compacted over time. On top of that, the top few inches of the fiber either get broken, crushed, or folded over. And that's when we know it's time to replace, either when the GMAX testing says that the field is too hard, or again, if we start to lose the structure on it. We are right now approaching the GMAX testing being too hard. So while we currently are allowed to play on that, what the GMAX testing would do for us is if it failed, is that we would not be allowed to play high school sports on that field. And again, that's not something that we want to do. Obviously, we would have to look to either outsource or provide those sports on additional playing fields. But again, we're not there yet. This is a commitment that the town took on multiple years back by putting in a turf field that we knew to maintain it as it got worn out. And again, we're close to that point right now. Like I said, on approaching 11 years of a worn out field. So I'll take some questions if you want, but again, this is just to remind everyone that 2 parts were initially presented last year. We did pull the first one, which is the track. Later on, before town meeting, the turf field was pulled. Now you're seeing both of those back again this year.
Questions from the committee? Catherine?
What was the combined amount of both last year versus this year? I know you said there were, at the last meeting, there was a slight increase. So what was the increase, or the percent increase?
It's $38,000 difference from last year to this year. So just approximately $40,000, if you want to say it, for round numbers.
Okay, thanks.
From the school committee, are there any other questions on this? I noticed that Jaya and Steve and Raja are all on. Did I miss any Ways and Means members?
I think Rob's here too.
I'm sorry?
I think Rob Neufeld is online as well.
Yes,
I'm here.
Okay, Rob, I was looking for your name on the list. So, Roger, do you want to go first, or however, any Ways and Means member that has a question or would like to say anything?
I guess I'll, you didn't mention, sorry, Mr. Koenig, you didn't mention the condition of the track. Does it have similar metrics for unusability?
Through the chair, it does. It's not called GMAX testing, but what happens with the track, because it's a compacted rubber that's about 2 inches thick, you actually see the deterioration similar to the bottom of your shoes. You'll see that wear down and that texture go down, but less likely that you see the rubber change its condensity. So really what happens is you start to see cracking on top, and you start to get rid of that texture, and it gets smooth. The track is similar in age to the field as well. So this is a resurface of the track, which is typical. If we were installing a new track, that would be doing groundwork underneath, then laying tar, then putting that track on it. This is just a resurface to peel off the 2 inches of rubber, put a new layer of rubber on top in its place, and then a new painting on top of it. So this is drastically reduced than building a new track.
All right, and then a sort of a parallel question. What's the state of the track at the middle school, and can it be used for high school sports?
So the state of it would be that it is 4 years younger than the high school field. It currently does not see as much use as the high school field, but in recent years, the past two, minus the pandemic, it has seen an uptick in not only Burlington school sports, but Burlington youth athletic sports as well. Just more events are happening and taking place again, minus this year. So it's not at the same rapid decline that the track or the field at the high school is. So I guess we'll have to look at that again in a few years, but we're about 4 years difference in the time length from new install to when we'd be looking at that anyways.
And would the leagues that we participate in consider that as an adequate place to play football? I mean, it doesn't have stands or doesn't have a lot of the conveniences, but as a field, is a alternative?
I mean, technically it's a regulation size, so yes. But then we would just obviously run into scheduling conflicts for our sports. But yes, if it came down to the question I think that you're asking would be is can we play on that field, varsity sports? Yes.
Okay, I'm just thinking of if there was a contingency, we tried to put it off another year and varsity field got, failed its tests mid-year. Do we have any alternative? But I'm generally supportive of resurfacing the field, fixing the fields, but one always has to explore possible alternatives and things like that. Anyone else? Rob?
Yeah, since I'm a father of a former track person, did you look into making the track better than it is?
In regards to the number of lanes that are there?
No, not as in regards to the surface being faster or better or easier to run on.
Yeah, so we have looked at the compounds that are available to us. That is one option. We've also looked at the possibility of expanding the number of lanes that are there. The first one we can do. That's something that the athletic director would pick, which would be similar to what other districts or other regional teams are using. But as far as like the expansion of the field or the turf itself, we don't have the room to make that happen. So we have a straight shot that has 8 lanes, but then we don't have 8 lanes going around. We don't have the room to make that happen. So we have looked at multiple options. It really would just be a new surface that we're looking at in this option right here.
Thanks.
Steve Moran, do you have any questions? Or Jaya?
I do have one question. Does the track take even wear, or are there sections of it that are actually worse than others? I'm particularly thinking of the southern area where the woodeds and it tends to accumulate snow and ice. I'm just wondering if all of it needs to be done in a single year, or if there's sort of a layered approach, like maybe the inner part of the field first, and then the track second. I'm just curious as to what the viable options might be.
So I don't know how to answer that question directly, except to say that when we GMAX test the field, we know that there are definitive spots that are harder and worse than others. You would say 50-yard line, 20-yard line, where either punts take place, depending on the sport, where face-offs take place. Things like that, and on the track as well, depending on the meet. Not all of the races are completely laps around. Some are singular laps or singular lanes. So any type of short distance running, you'll see wear in those places more than you would around the full. And then of course, when you do some of the full races, you'll get inside. So the closer to the field you are is where you're going to see the most wear. And then, of course, the entrance is going across from the grass onto the field. I'm sorry, from the tar where the fence is by the bleachers onto the turf field is where you're going to see a lot of wear as well, too. So, yeah, it's not consistently even to just say that lane 6 or 24 yards is unevenly worn. Some of those you can prep on the turf field. On the track, it's not as easy as that.
All right, thank you.
Tom Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of little bit of context, I guess, on the track in particular. The one that's down there now was installed, I believe it was in 2002 or 3. At that point, it was kind of a cutting edge track. We've been running on just hot top up until then, and that had been cracked and it was broken by snow plows, and the thing was a mess, so we finally got the approval to replace it in 2002 or 3. In with what was the top of the line or near the top of the line track at the time. That was resurfaced when we did the turf field about 10, 11 years ago. And now it's looking to be resurfaced again. And if memory serves, when we put the track in, that's what we were told at the time. That was a fairly significant cost to do that. And we were told it would have to, every 10 years or so, do this resurfacing until at some point you've got to redo the ground underneath at some point. But we were told at the time that just by resurfacing it on 10-year intervals would keep it a very effective track over the years. I believe somebody asked about the middle school track. I don't believe the track can be used. I don't think that's a regulation size track. I think some of the turns on the corner of the field over towards the middle school, the back corner, they had to cut into the hill a little bit to get that in there, and I don't think it's not a regulation track. I think it is a regulation size field. And to the question about maybe phasing it in, I would say as far as the track go, that would be a difficult thing because you'd have people running from one surface to another over the course of going around the track, and I just think that's a safety issue. So if we're going to do the track, I think you should do it all at once. And as far as doing one of these this year and one of them next year, I think there was some benefit to doing them all at once because there's going to be work going on down there. There's going to be workers, trucks, equipment, or whatever. And if you're doing both surfaces at the same time, I think you avoid some duplication of effort and some extra time of taking the track or the field offline. And lastly, and I've said this before, so I'm not going to beat a drum on it, but I just think it's time. This was a significant investment that the town has made over the years, and I think we have a responsibility to maintain it properly, because if you don't do that, at some point, we're going to have to do something a lot more expensive to address it. And so I would certainly advocate for putting this on the warrant and ultimately approving it at a town meeting.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I haven't heard from Jaya. Do you have any questions, Jaya? Guess not. Anyone else on Ways and Means or anyone else on the committee? Oh, Jaya, go ahead.
No, I was on mute. I don't have any questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thanks for being here. Anyone else have any questions? Not that I know the information because sports really isn't my thing, but Tom, I think that was a good reminder to us that we kind of made a commitment to do this and keep it up. So I agree. Are we voting on these tonight?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead, Martha.
I did want to add to what Mr. Murphy just said. I remember a year ago when we decided to postpone this, I was feeling that with the shutdown, we didn't even know if they were going to get used this year, and that was a reasonable thing to postpone. But it does need to be done. And in fact, we already have students working, playing on the fields, and I believe there's going to be 2 seasons between now and the end of the school year. So I definitely support requesting this as a capital warrant article, and I support all the reasons that Tom gave as well.
All right, Eric, do you want to vote on this?
Madam Chair, yes, I think we need to submit it by Friday. Is that correct, Bob or Nicole?
Yes.
So we want to just put a placeholder. Again, if you want to do a first reading and second reading, I think you don't have to vote until next meeting, but we are going to put this on a placeholder for the town warrant. So again, unless you're telling us not to do that. So I'm hearing you'd like us to do that. So It's really up to the committee, Madam Chair. If you want to just take this as a first reading, we'll put the language on the warrant. And then if you want to take an official vote, Mr. Riggs, you said it's easier for us to take stuff off than to add stuff. So again, it's really your prerogative.
Eric, is the placeholder only because you're not sure of the number?
Placeholder would be because typically you've done a first reading and a second reading, and because we have a condensed time frame this year, and we're just talking about one article, we may put some other articles on there for us to discuss in the future. So that would be it, Madam Chair. It's not, we're going to think the dollar amount is what the dollar amount's going to be.
Okay, so if you're going to do a placeholder, why don't we vote to do it?
All right.
Is there a motion to put this on submit this as a placeholder to the warrant articles?
I'm not sure I understand the request, but I would move that we vote to approve this as being placed on the warrant for the 2021 town meeting. I mean, to me, placeholder connotes a temporary thing that maybe will be there and maybe it won't.
Right.
As far as I'm concerned, and at least it's my opinion that it should definitely be there. So my motion would be that we place it on the warrant for the 2021 town meeting agenda for BHS turf field replacement and track resurface in the amount of $725,000.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second what Mr. Murphy proposed, that we vote.
Okay. Any questions? Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion made by Mr. Murphy and seconded by Martha? Mr. Foss?
Aye.
Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Ms. Simon?
Aye.
Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
And chairman votes aye. That's 5-0-0. Okay, do you have another warrant article, Bob?
Not a capital warrant article, but it's the community custodial. So
Okay.
it's
Tom?
I think when we were speaking earlier, Dr. Conti mentioned that he queried whether Carl and Catherine understood what this was about. But again, by way of background, the school department has traditionally put a chunk of money in an account over the years in some of the nonprofit youth sports groups and things of that nature. They get to use the gyms, and we subsidize the cost of the custodians for them. So that's what this is about. It's not something that applies to high school or student activities. It's more Pop Warner renting the gyms to do cheerleading, or Boy Scouts doing meetings, or Girl Scouts doing meetings at the schools and things of that nature. And this is something that's traditionally been on for as long as I can remember. So for the sake of discussion, I'll make a motion that the school committee vote to approve putting a a non-capital warrant article for community custodial services on the 2021 town meeting agenda for the amount of $47,464.45.
I'll second.
I'll
the
second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Does anyone have any questions about this? And
No
as
questions, and thank you for the explanation, Mr. Murphy.
yeah, so town meeting funds it each year, and that way we don't have to charge a lot of community organizations to use the facilities. All right, if there are no questions, we'll put the motion to a vote. Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Mr. Foss?
Aye.
Ms. Simon? Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
And chairman votes aye. That's also unanimous, 5-0-0.
I do have
Anything-
one quick, I'm sorry, Miss.
yes, go
Madam
ahead,
Chair. I
Steve.
do have one quick question.
Sure.
My understanding from the previous times it was there, and I just want to confirm the terms will stay the same. That is, if there's a custodial on staff, there's no additional payment. It's only to cover the cost at a point in time when there are no custodials on staff, when the organizations want to meet.
can I clarify that, Mrs. Chair?
Sure.
So Mr. Maureen, yes, you're correct. There are some stipulations in the contract. If there were to be a very large event, then even if there were custodian staff, but the event needed a number of custodians in order to support it, then there would be a charge for that.
No, understood. Yeah.
Typically, no, that would not be a concern.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And can I just confirm one thing, that the list of participating organizations is pretty much unchanged from past years?
Two groups were removed. And you're gonna ask me that, and I had that open, I'm sorry. But yeah, two groups were removed just because they hadn't been using the space in 2 years. And last year it was questioned, and they did not use the space, so they were removed.
Thanks.
Okay. Does that complete capital warrant article discussion? And yeah, that's it, right, on that? We're moving on to the draft budget.
Can I ask one more question?
Go ahead.
Dr. Conti, if we were looking to add other warrant articles and putting placeholders in, would we like to have those discussions at a future meeting?
Yeah, we'd have to. So we need to make sure they get on the warrant on Friday. I think we can certainly put them on as drafts. Again, Madam Chair, with your permission, we just have to make the deadline. And then if we want to talk about them at a future meeting with the school committee for your approval, we could do that.
That's fine. Usually we vote on placeholders. Tom?
That was one question. I didn't know whether we had to vote on placeholders as well, but I think probably we ultimately have to vote to put the thing on the town meeting warrant. So my sense is that if it's a placeholder, so it's made the cut, all we have to do formally is probably approve it prior to town meeting. However, my question was, do we have a definitive number yet, or is this going to be a floating thing, or what's the deal?
Nicole, was it 1.25?
So the split was 1.5 million, but I think that the understanding was that the majority of the articles would be of health and public safety. So if we had other things that fell under those, those would be what would be going for this year.
Maybe when we have the decisions on what placeholders you may put on, you could at least notify us before they go on and just send it out.
Yes, absolutely.
So it may not make a big difference if we don't actually vote on each placeholder until afterwards.
And Madam Chair, we may not have any. So I just, we're just sort of working in a compressed time frame. So I just don't want to miss the deadline.
That's fine. Okay, should we move on to the budget?
Yes, ma'am. So again, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole in a minute, but the budgets tonight are the middle school, elementary school, science center, operations, custodial and maintenance, and the administration budget. So with that, Nicole, Bob, are you going to be showing?
Maybe.
Can give me 1 second, and I can.
So if we all look at page 5 of the budget document where the scorecard is, just to show the year-over-year comparisons, all of the budgets that are presenting this evening were at a 0% increase. I think the only increase was a $3 increase at Francis Wyman. So if you look at page 4, you're able to click the links of each department to view the backup. So, I mean, they're level funded. So for the sake of time, I'm not sure if we want to go through and review everything or if we just want to field questions. In addition to that, there were some additional position requests for the department heads and principals that are in attendance this evening. Those are on page 218 to 219. There were 2 for Pine Glen, 2 for Fox Hill, 4 for the middle school, and after the budget was completed, Principal Purchase advocated for 1 additional that she may want to expand on this evening. So if, Bob, if you go to page 4. Line 46, Marshall Simons Middle School begins on page 49. Again, the 0% increase. Fox Hill begins on line 37, page 6. Francis Wyman, line 38, page 13. Memorial, line 39, page 20. Pine Glen, line 40, page 27. The Science Center, line 57, page 139. Custodial, line 61, page 153. Operations and Plant, line 62, page 155. And I believe it was listed as administration, but it's formally called the school committee line on line 63, page 159. And again, all of these had a 0% increase.
So Nicole, everything has a 0% increase that you mentioned?
Yes, except Francis Wyman had a $3 increase. So everything else is level funded.
Okay, are there questions? I can't see your faces, so speak up if you have a question.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Martha.
On the middle school budget, I noticed on page 50 and 50, the cell phones. We had just 1 assistant principal last year. Now we have 2 assistant principals. I just want to make sure that you have enough resources to have cell phones for the 3 administrators in the building.
We have 3, don't we? No, 2.
We have 3, but one of the options on either page 50 or 52, I believe, only mentions cell phone. It might be the plan as opposed to page 65. No, one of them was the actual phones, and one of them was the plan. So, Ms. Purchase, if you could just reassure me that you have enough in the budget for the 3 of you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Simons. We do, with Mrs. Chen Fine joining us a year after Mr. Murphy and I just had to honestly replace my phone this year. So I do think that there's enough there. So thank you. I appreciate your concern.
Great. And also, I noticed on page 62 and 63, there were some departmental instructional aids. Is that considered part of this operations budget, or is that part of staffing?
I would say that is part of operations. So things to support instruction in the classroom. So instead of breaking that out, if math teachers want expo markers and or an easel or things like that, we have it under, I believe, oh, this is the math. So this would be the supplies for that.
But it says instructional aids. Oh, I see. It's aids without E. Okay, got it. It's spelled differently.
Manipulatives, different things. So yes, I apologize for that.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the committee members? Eric,
One more question about the middle school, and that is, are we still transitioning to the new science curriculum? There was a line item for that.
We are. So it's funny. It's funny you mentioned that. We actually got some good news today. So we are our science curriculum. Is this okay to share, Dr. Conti?
Yeah.
I should ask that first. So we had decided to move forward with OpenSci curriculum materials, and there was a grant opportunity that our program coordinator, Carrie Shea, spearheaded and put lots of time and effort in. And we just found out today that we were awarded the grant. So we have kind of a role, you know, we're kind of rolling in the curriculum materials. So that's been, we've been purchasing, you know, kind of 2 units worth of materials per grade level each year. So we'll continue to do that. And now we have this grant that will help us with the professional development to support the implementation. So it's really exciting, and want to just give Mrs. Shea a huge shout out for all of her hard work.
Thank
It was a significant grant. It was over $30,000. So,
Wow.
so it was, again, it was a lot of work, and will have a very positive impact.
Cherry, thank her for us.
Yeah.
I will, thank you.
Eric, you wanted to say something?
I do. I just wanted to give, we should have some principals in attendance. I just wanted to give Carrie an opportunity. Remember, we're presenting you a level funded budget with, we're not supporting new positions in the operating budget. We may have the opportunity to come back for positions that we need for recovery, depending on the federal relief that we have that wouldn't be associated with the operating budget. We would clearly come back to the committee when we have those conversations. But Carrie, I just wanted to give you the chance to talk about some of your needs, because I don't think your needs are going away. We just aren't fitting them in the operating budget right now.
No, I appreciate that, Dr. Conti. So as Ms. Kasha said, that we had originally requested, it was a total of 3 FTEs in the original documentation. And where we were with our kind of fact finding for this coming year in our rising 6th graders, so our current 5th grade students, we were still getting numbers from the elementary schools in terms of special education services, number of students coming up and otherwise. So when I did submit the material, I didn't know you know, exactly what our needs were in that department yet. And again, some of our information gathering is a little delayed because we were, you know, doing one schedule. And so some of our timelines for getting that information aren't what they typically are. So what I've come to learn since then is that we are, you know, in terms of our 8th graders moving up, and then our rising 6th graders, that we'll have an increase of 22 students at the middle school next year, approximately, receiving special education services. And while we are well staffed with our special educators, and our liaison numbers and our case management numbers are very reasonable, there are 2 positions in the building that that touch every single student that are receiving services. And that's our school psychologist. At one point over the 3 years, school psychologist will conduct a 3-year evaluation. She provides direct services to over 30 students, consultation and other things. And then our team chair. So one position that was not in the original request documents, and those are all things that we need and we'd like, and we can, and, you know, kind of wait on. The one piece that I feel strongly, and one position that I feel like we'll need to have in place for next year, is an additional school psychologist at the middle school level. That will provide additional, it'll help offset the increase in students in terms of testing, caseload, consultation. It will also provide an opportunity to our team chair and our school psychologist will bring our ratios of students in line with that of their counterparts in other schools in the district. Because when you look at the number of meetings that our team chair are having, it far exceeds the numbers in at the other levels. And that will help us position not only to give direct service and support to students next year, it will also help us plan for the previous year, because looking ahead to the numbers, they'll continue to climb. And we know that 2 years down the road, that our profile of students in our programs are going to, and the number of students in our programs will be changing. So by bringing in the school psychologist position and you know, kind of offsetting some of the team meetings potentially in terms of chairs, that will give us additional time to support program development and continued growth this year, so that we're prepared the following year. So I just wanted to, I thank you for the opportunity. I'm sorry that that was not, included in the original documentation, but I do appreciate the opportunity to advocate for that position here tonight.
Again, so Madam Chair, I think the middle school, as you know, is the perfect storm for special education in terms of initial meetings and also in terms of ongoing meetings. So the team chair at the middle school has the largest caseload and needs some help. And again, the way we are thinking about these new positions, because we can't fit them in the operating budget, is we're working on a recovery budget. And again, we'll be presenting that to the committee depending on the federal relief that we get and what we can spend that money on. And again, the example that I would say, the analogous example would be, we used some of our initial federal relief. We hired, Nicole, please help me out, was it 8 or 9 additional staff positions using that money, and that allowed us to create the remote academy for this fiscal year. We are getting some other, again, federal recovery money that we can use over the next 2 fiscal years. So at some point, we don't want to cliff build, but we may use the federal money to help us put in place these positions 2 years early, and then use our operating budget to absorb these positions sort of over the next 2 to 3 years. So again, I think the positions that principals ask for are needed. We just can't fit them under our current guideline, and we're looking at other opportunities to present that to the committee so that we can help students recover from this year, and that's what the dollars are for. So Nicole, I just want to make sure I didn't misspeak with any of that.
Including IAs and any additional support, I think there was a total of 13 additional staff, but we were able to fit them all under our relief funds.
Right, so those are technically outside of our operating budget. So what I'm sort of thinking about doing is no different than what we've done to get through this year. We'll just communicate those when we have the final dollar amount, which we haven't received yet from the federal government, and when we get the rules for what we can spend it on. But I think learning recovery is going to be a priority in that funding, and then we can present some of the positions that we're not able to fill here. At the elementary level, I think we have, some principals with us too tonight if you wanted to ask some questions. But the additional positions that you're seeing should be very familiar to committee members who've been here for a while. You're seeing the math specialist again at Pine Glen and at Fox Hill. And again, when we built the new Memorial School and we redistricted, and it just seems like a couple years ago, but that's getting on to be 10 years as well. When we redistricted, we kept the Fox Hill enrollment relatively small at the time because we felt we were going to have growth in that area. That growth has been fulfilled, and currently Fox Hill is larger than Memorial. And Memorial has 2 reading specialists and a math specialist, and Fox Hill only has 1 reading specialist. So we really need to make sure that we're giving Mr. Rosenblatt the support that he needs. And again, I think recovery dollars would allow us to jumpstart that need and then absorb those positions again in our operating budget over time. So again, I'm not sure if Mr. Rosenblatt, I can't see the entire list if Mr. Rosenblatt or Mr. Lyons are on the call, but I would certainly give them an opportunity to speak if they're on.
I am. Thank you, Dr. Conzi. 2 years ago now, I went before the committee and asked for a second guidance counselor, which you all so generously granted. And the outcome from that, I want to greatly thank you for, especially unexpectedly this pandemic that we've gone through. Having that extra guidance support has been tremendous. So thank you. It's been a huge asset to our community. And so now what I'm asking for at this point is a math specialist and a second reading specialist with the academic needs that have come up as a result of the loss in instruction last school year, and not full day this year. The math specialist and the reading specialist, serves a very important role. It would help students within our RTI process as we get it ramped up again next year. they'll be able to help support the students and help support the teachers with that process. So I think as our enrollment has gone up, as Dr. Conti has said, as of January 1st, we were at 438. I think we've gotten 5 or 6 new students since then. So we're closing in on 450. All the help that can be provided for our students and our teachers would be greatly appreciated. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to advocate for Fox Hill.
Okay, thank you. Anyone have any questions for Fox Hill? Is Mr. Lyons on? Yeah, I see him there. Mr. Lyons, you want to advocate for Pine Glen?
Yes, please. Thank you, Madam Chair. We have been asking for math specialists for a number of years now. It'd be a critical role, particularly given, as Mr. Rosenblatt had said, in this age of recovery with the pandemic. Vital resource would help with our RTI model. The other position that we desperately need is a special needs teacher for moderate special needs. This would be to be in compliance with our IEPs, which are contractual obligations. I had asked for a position this time last year. Not fortunately, but the pandemic has allowed us, where we had a number of students in the remote academy, to get by with the resources we had now for staffing. Going forward, if we're looking at a full complement of all our students returning in the fall, we would need that special needs teacher to, like I said, be in compliance with our IEPs. But I just want to thank the committee for all their support. We've just have tremendous teachers, and your ability to fund and support us has allowed us to not only hire great talent, but also retain and keep great talent in the district. So thank you for your support.
You're welcome. Any questions to Mr. Lyons? Maybe Deb Dressler?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to thank the continued support of the school committee for providing incredible talent for our students to have and be supported by teachers. In addition to math specialists, I'd like to advocate on behalf of my other 2 elementary schools. The Memorial has profited and benefited from having a math specialist and reading specialist in the building. They serve as coaches for teachers, as well as providing and elevating the instructional practices of the tutors. So their role is critical, and I think Memorial has benefited from it, and I'd love to see my associates benefit from that as well. I think probably not, I did not put this in the budget, but to bring up the topic of assistant principals as a longstanding school committee that's been in favor of advocating for principals to have assistant principals across the elementary schools. I bring it to your attention now, not as a reality or a high probable request, but I would just like to keep it in front of the school committee as an opportunity for all of us as instructional leaders to kind of spread the responsibilities that we have in our buildings. And that is something that I think will continue to just increase our managerial responsibilities, but our instructional leadership responsibilities really, I know when I had an assistant principal for 3 years, was it 2 years or 3 years with Mr. Rosenblatt, it really gave me the opportunity to kind of get into instructional leadership within my building. And I miss that because without an assistant principal, the load of a single leader kind of comes down more towards managerial and day-to-day kind of operational responsibilities. So I'd really like to thank this school committee for continuing to put incredible talent in front of our students. I feel very supported at Memorial School, and I thank you for that.
And Madam Chair, again, Burlington was the beneficiary not only of David Rosenblatt's innate ability, but he got to work with Deb for several years, and he got the benefit of learning from her and observing her, and I think we're ultimately the beneficiaries of that as well. So if you want to think about maintaining the talent that we have at elementary principal, I think having some assistant principals in that role helps us to helps that talent to grow. So again, I think there's no better evidence of that than what we've just experienced here.
I think we all agree. Any questions for Deb? Martha?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Nicole McDonald?
Good evening, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Hi, Nicole.
Hi. And well said, Mrs. Dressler, so I can just echo, her appreciation. I am also the beneficiary of having an assistant principal, the only one currently. And then I am very grateful for Mr. Doiron and the many tasks and support that he offers for all of our staff and our students. So I can echo that sentiment of them benefiting from that as well. So hopefully we can just add some additional support for the rest of the staff that under these circumstances would certainly benefit. But also the talented specialists, the reading specialists, the math specialists, guidance. We all have such a high need for support in our buildings to help things run smoothly. So I appreciate the committee's support with those positions, and continuing to add that across the schools, I think, would be beneficial for all of our students. So I certainly appreciate your support and look forward to the continued support as our students' needs just continue to grow.
All we need is a 10% guideline from Ways and Means.
That would be great.
So again, Madam Chair, I think what we're presenting tonight for you is essentially budgets that don't have any increase over last fiscal year. And again, I want to thank principals for putting forth having the discipline to do that. I think at the end of the budget, we said page 218, 219, you have some positions that you've seen before that were requested but weren't included in the budget. And we even have some additional needs from there. So again, in most years, you would have our operating budget presented, you would have our accommodated budget presented, and then you would have our capital warrants, which we also discussed tonight, presented. I think this year there's going to be a fourth option or a fourth presentation for us, depending on the federal relief that we get and then how we can spend that money. I'm not sure the timing of that. But again, if recovery is going to be the focus, then I see us using that in a similar way to how we created the schedules in the fall with federal dollars as well, where again, Nicole said we added 10 or 12 positions. Nicole, my understanding is these positions, the money is going to be available over multiple fiscal years. Is that correct?
Yes.
So again, I think if we can look at this a little bit differently, help with a multi-year plan for student recovery and support, and then Mrs. Monaco, when we do our guideline planning over the next 2 or 3 fiscal years, we can absorb these positions into our operating budget, if and as they're needed. So again, I think there may be a way for us to jumpstart adding these positions because our students are desperately in need of this support coming back to school full time and certainly starting next fall. Is that clear? I just want to make sure that's clear because it's really a fourth part of this process that we haven't had before. Mr. Riggs, I know some people might say, why can't we use those federal dollars to replace our current operating budget? And again, my argument to that would be we're at 0% almost across the board already. Our kids have additional needs. And so we're really looking to use this federal dollars for the federal dollars that are going to be targeted to Burlington for additional recovery services, I think that are critical and would fall outside of our regular operating budget, even though, again, we have those needs. Nicole?
Just to echo what you said, actually, these federal dollars are not allowed to be spent on anything that we had actually budgeted for. They're only allowed to be spent on the additional needs due to COVID.
Good. But Eric, be careful about your cliff stuff. We don't want to get in a position where we hire people and then we can't retain them.
Right. Again, absolutely. That's why, again, I don't think we're going to spend it all in one fiscal year. But I think if I were in your seats, I'd look for a multi-year plan. and that the positions are distributed and how they're contributing to recovery is what I would, sort of the questions that I would ask that we'll be preparing to answer for you. It's just a part of the staffing that we normally, it's an option for staffing that we wouldn't have, or that we typically don't have as part of our budget process. That's all.
All right, questions? Martha?
Yeah, first of all, I do want to thank everyone for their thoughtfulness in these requests. And, you know, it's not easy because, as we've just said, many of these requests have been ongoing for years. And I just wanted, I wanted to clarify the position for the school psychologist that Ms. Purchase just mentioned. Is that in addition to the positions on pages 218 and 219? Okay.
Yeah.
So I would like to request from you, Dr. Conti, and maybe you were going to do this anyway, that you often have a priority list for us. And in this case, it might be a little different because it would be maybe separated into which positions could be funded through the recovery money and others. But if you could kind of identify for us those different positions and where that will come from. And I think you were saying you said if you were in our seat, you'd want. And so I'm hoping that means you are planning to look at it and give us a multi-year plan. So thank you for that. Finally, I want to thank Ms. Dressler and Ms. McDonald for reminding us that we have three elementary schools without an assistant principal, where that's a really crucial position. And I have to say, as a former teacher, that I used to be pretty upset when school committees would add more administrative positions. However, the volume of needs that the administration and principals need to do now has actually increased a lot in the last few years. Since the new law for teacher evaluations was changed, it's a huge process, and it gets to the core of what we are trying to do in my mind. In my mind, we are trying to provide the best instruction we can for all of our students. And if we want to do that, we should be using our educator evaluation system to provide that educational leadership that was mentioned earlier tonight. That if we don't have those assistant principals, one principal can't provide that kind of support to our teachers. And for our teachers who are great teachers, they might help facilitate them working with others, but for teachers who are newer or might need more help, without that position, without those positions, that isn't going to happen. So I've said that before, some of you have heard it, but I wanted to, this is budget time, and we're clearly not going to be asking for assistant principals this year, but I'm really glad that it's still on the table because it is still really important. When I was running for school committee for the first time 6 years ago, I was sitting in on these budget discussions, and we just couldn't put assistant principals in that year. And I was really sad. And I think it was the year after we were able to add an assistant principal at 2 of the buildings. But it is a really important position as well. So thank you.
Madam Chair, I just have one final.
Go ahead, Eric.
I just have one final thing in this very quickly. Nicole, and Nicole gets mad at me because I butcher the name of the federal relief all the time, and I call it something different every time, and it can be confusing. So, Nicole, is this officially called ESSER 3, or is it, what's the term? So when I say it or butcher it, the committee will know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so we have CVRF, our Coronavirus Relief Fund. We have ESSER 1, ESSER 2, and ESSER 3 is on its way, which is under the recovery plan or rescue plan.
Okay, so the money I'm talking about is the Rescue Plan 3. So I call it recovery dollars, but it's the Rescue Plan 3, and that's part of the federal bill that was just signed. So again, we don't have the dollar amount assigned yet. We told to expect 2.2 times our SR2 money as an estimate. And so we will get that in the rules. And as Nicole said, We can't use the dollars to supplant operational needs that we already have. We can't use it for operational dollars that we already have in use. So we have to supplement our budget, and we will put together, again, a plan to use those dollars. But it's a new facet to the staffing and budgeting options that we normally would not have, and we can use those dollars over the next 2 fiscal years.
Okay. Are there any questions about any of this? D- Nicole, is there more that you want to go over budget-wise?
That's all we had on the agenda for tonight, but if anyone has questions about anything else, I'd be happy to answer anything.
All right, is there anything else on the budget for tonight? Roger, anyone on Ways and Means?
Madam Chair, we have a subcommittee on Thursday.
Yes, 5 o'clock Thursday. It's posted meeting.
Oops. Okay, 5 o'clock Thursday. Is there a link for that? Would someone send it to me? Because I don't believe I got an email on that one.
Yes, Madam Chair, we'll take care of that.
Thank you. All right. So it looks like we've completed our budget discussion for tonight. Is there anything else to come before the committee in public session? I don't see anything. So we have need for executive session. General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, subsection 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares. Burlington Educators Association and clerical negotiations. And B, approval of executive session minutes of 10/27/20, 12/15/20, 12/21/20, 1/26/21. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
Moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
And we will return to public session only for purposes of adjournment. It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Murphy?
Aye.
Ms. Simon?
Aye.
Mrs. Bond?
Aye.
Mr. Foss?
Aye.
Chairman votes aye. Good night, everyone. We will reconvene in executive session.
Good night.
Thank you.